Hi guys, welcome back. In this lesson we're going to start with the melody. Now there's going to be two melodies in this track. One is what I call the verse melody, the kind of build up part of the song, so a bit more laid back, and we'll call that the verse melody or the pluck melody because it's going to be like a pluck type sound. And then there's going to be a completely different melody that comes in on the drop, which is a bit more in your face, if you like, a bit more energetic. And that's a completely different sound as well. So we're going to be working on the verse melody. And I really wanted to get this to sound like Marshmello, and I've pretty much achieved that, and I want to show you how I did that. Very, very simple actually in this particular instance. So when writing any kind of track, I normally start with a chord structure, and I'll show you the chord assistant in Cubase in just a second. I'm sure other DAWs have chord assistants and tools that you need if you're not that brilliant at music theory like myself. And sometimes I would start with the melody, but on this particular occasion I started with the melody and put the chords in afterwards. It doesn't really matter, everyone's got their own way of doing things. Again, there's no right or wrong way, you just work how you want to work. Another thing is, I don't think about what key or scale I'm writing in, I just program in notes and chords that sound great together, that's all. Just want to try and make it catchy, nothing else. So I just play in what sounds good. I sometimes consider the scale if I know I've got a singer on this, like we use this girl called Laura who's absolutely brilliant. But there's going to be a certain key that's going to sound better for her voice or suit her voice better, of course, than if it was too low or too high for her. So I did take that into consideration. This song ended up being in F major, but like I say, I don't particularly go and set out and say, right, this is going to be in F major, or this is going to be in B minor. So again, I'll stop waffling on and we'll just get straight into it. Down here we've got chord pads, and we're not on the chord lesson yet, but I'm just showing you we will be coming on to this and choosing the F major preset. For example, we go to this one here, load chords, and we'll go F major. And of course it's not going to do anything at the moment because it's not connected to anything. But it just makes it so easy to show you what chords are in the scale of F major and what notes. Again, we've got other tools in Cubase and other DAWs which tell you what notes you can use, which ones are in the scale of F major and which ones are not. So it just makes it really, really easy when coming up with melodies. I'm going to be showing you all of that. So let's create an instrument track. We're going to use Retrolog, which comes with Cubase. Feel free to use any synth because all we're going to do is put a square wave on here. So use any other synth like Sylenth or Serum or whatever it is, or just use the audio. I'm going to bounce down this audio anyway, but it would be better if you can make your own just so you learn more. And like I say, this is really, really simple. Just going to put this onto a square wave, and in Retrolog, you need this to be on 50% if you want a square wave, otherwise anything else is a variation of a pulse wave. 50%. And of course we need to turn this down a bit. Just have one oscillator. I think that's what I used before, and it was really, really simple, but it just worked. But we're going to sculpt this sound with the cutoff. That's where the magic comes in. Because at the moment, just a bit boring. So let's get the cutoff down a little bit. Let's turn up the envelope so this envelope affects the cutoff. And to make it plucky, just bring down the decay and sustain on the amplifier envelope. But we also need to, this is where the real magic happens, is on the filter envelope, which affects the cutoff. So let's bring these down. Before we do anything else, let's add a bit of reverb because it's badly screaming out for reverb. That's definitely better, and bit of delay. Quarter notes as well. Press the sync there to get the note values up. Let's do quarter notes. Not that much delay, maybe 20%. Usually works quite well. And we've got to do this on ping pong. So the repeats are going from left to right. But we don't want too much Turn the feedback down as well. Just adjust this delay left and right so you can get them going out to the sides. Okay, I mean we're roughly there already. You can adjust this. This is where the pluckiness comes in. You can use the modifiers here. So if the sound starts to get a bit loud in the higher regions, which is not too bad here, but you can, I do sometimes put in a key follow here and the destination as volume. And just turn the volume down as you go up the top end of the keyboard. Because your ears are more sensitive to the high frequencies, that's sometimes what I do. Just tones down that volume. Otherwise, it can get a little bit harsh sometimes. And obviously, you can assign your mod wheel here to cut-offs and things like that. But let's just keep this simple for now. Let's just program in something. Show you the magic trick in a second. Let's go into here. And we're going to go into Scale Assistant. You've probably got this in Logic and other DAWs as well. I know it's definitely in FL, where you can highlight in the background which notes are in the scale and which are not. So you just need to set this to the scale you're in, and you can either identify the notes which are in the scale or not by the sort of darker or lighter shadings, the lighter ones being in the scale. Or to make it even easier still, you can come up here and show pitches from Scale Assistant, make sure that's ticked, and then just click this button here. And it will actually get rid of all the ones that are not in the scale. So I'd normally play this in by hand, but I know there's always a bit of a delay when I'm recording. So I'm just going to quickly program in some kind of rough melody. The grid off momentarily just to make them slightly shorter. Doesn't matter if it's slightly off the grid, I'm actually going to leave that slightly off the grid, that's fine by me. And we'll just copy that over, but change it, of course. So we want this to be on bar 3. Enlarge the parts, just double check that's big enough. Let's do that. So we've got this so far. So this is going to be doubling length, actually, because I'll make some variations to that. And then we'll start making this a little bit different on the second half. But we'll still copy it over and then just change it because it's just easier to do that. So we're starting on the A. We need a little fill note in here as well. I think a little fill note in there to tie those two sections over. So we'll go down now. So we want do 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 do. Check that's correct. And just make sure that I'll just grid those ones up. It just sounds a bit better. Press Q and then we'll just repeat them over. I think something like that. Now I've got to mess around with velocities and lengths of notes to make them sound how I want to, and maybe go back in here and just adjust the sound slightly. For example, let's add a touch of bite with resonance. It just gives it a nice bite. And of course, a bit of clip distortion. Touch too much delay, I think. Okay, that's sounding pretty good. I'm just going to go in and tidy up the lengths and things. Just a note, I did have these notes very, very short to start with, but then I had some vocals sung over the top and I ended up just extending these notes a little bit just to tie in more with the length of the vocal note, but we'll get to that later. So let's just make this a little bit slightly more interesting. Just sort of vary these notes a little bit. I'll do this all the way along. Really does give it some more character. So now I want the grid off because I want to free roll on making these shorter and longer. Wrote it how it was. Pretty good so far. That note there was just a little bit short. Even though it's just a touch longer, it just sounds better to me. These are just a bit boring because they're all the same, so let's just vary these a little bit. Okay, so you can see that I think that's quite an effective sound. We're literally using one oscillator on a square wave. I do want to make this just a little bit less bright. We haven't done any EQ on this at all. See how this filter envelope is adjusting the sound. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Maybe a touch brighter because we've got everything else in the track. I think that fill is a bit loud. Let's highlight it and just bring it down just a bit much. Okay, so you saw how easy that was using the scale assistant. Obviously, you don't need to use that if you're fully experienced in music theory, but for those that are not, that's a fantastic tool. And like I say, you should have a version in your DAW, some kind of similar tool, along with the chord pads, which we'll be using again very soon. So leads, we'll go for pink. Let's just get these hi-hats, have a quick look at these hi-hats. Maybe something like... Definitely take some of these out. I might edit some of this out, guys, because I'm sure this is quite boring, but I'm just showing you at least a tiny bit of what goes into producing tracks. You do have to spend sometimes a long time fiddling around with these things. It does sometimes take a long time, but I understand it's boring for viewers, so I will edit some of this out. Okay, so this is what we ended up with. Something like this. Doesn't matter if you haven't got it exactly the same, but it's a combination of being slightly off the grid and very much varying the velocities. This is to give the hi-hats a more down-tempo feel for the verse. That's all we're going to do there. And so these hats over here are going to be for the drop. A lot more full on. So let's just maybe move them over there, because that's a different section of the song. I don't want to be building the song structure just yet, but just chuck them over there somewhere. We're working on the verse at the moment. Okay guys, this lesson's gone on way longer than I expected. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.